over here you're looking at this one chart. In the blue, it's the VIX. In the red, it's the Dow. Okay. If you want to look at a few things, if you want to look at like May of 2005, May of 2006, earlier January of this year, right? Volatility index was close to 11 or 10, right? And then it shot up, right? And when that shoots up, you see market correction. See market correction. If you want to go here, right? Market correction in the red, volatility index spikes close to 20. What do we see right now? The volatility index is roughly 11.36. It got hammered on Friday, right? Right before the long weekend. So if you see a lot of complacency, meaning a low volatility index, for an extreme amount of time, that means that it's most likely to spike back up, right? I saw this one article, by the way. It was called "The Calm Before the Storm," and it mentioned that, like in the 2007, 2006 range, right? Low volatility, there was a lot of complacency. And New York Fed chairman, or New York Fed, excuse me, the New York Fed individual, Dudley, right? What did he say the other day? He said that when volatility is low for a long period of time, that's a red flag, basically. There's too much complacency going on, and that's not good. That's what he's alluding to. So, if you're looking at that fact, right, does this mean that it's a calm before the storm, and that we're going to see a 2007, 2000 type crash? Doesn't necessarily have to see a crash, or we don't necessarily have to see a crash, but you could see some sectors that will probably roll over and get hammered, in my opinion, right? I thought it was originally going to be a Lehman Brothers squared type event, but now I'm thinking that it's just going to be a slow but choppy move to the downside, and that could be encountered with some bail-ins. We shall see what happens. But I wanted to show you another thing, right, where I believe is a red flag as well, right? What's this chart, right? This is the margin debt versus the Dow, right? So, or the S&P, right? So S&P hit like the 1860-ish, right? And the margin debt actually has gone down to 437 mil, right? So let's just look at this right now. Excuse me, it was in billions of dollars, right? So $437 billion. So let's look at this. So 465,000. This was the top in the margin debt in February, minus the margin debt in April, which actually decreased to $437 billion, which is quite interesting, right? Margin debt's not going up, it's going down. That doesn't mean it's going to continue to go down, but if you look at history, history will tell you that it's most likely going to go down once it gets hammered like this. So let's do the math over here. Let me just do that here. So roughly that's a 6% move to the downside in the margin debt as of this year, right, from the highs. Where this is where the biotechs made a top, right, February this year. Now if you want to go back to other crashes, we could see. Okay, now if you want to look at what happened in 2007, right? This is July, the peak in the margin debt, $381 billion. And the market actually peaked like the high of like Dow 14,100 or 14,200 in October, okay? But if you want to look at the 1 month decline from July to August, we could see how much of a move that was. And you have to remember there was stress in the credit markets as well. Okay, let's do the math. So it's a 13% move in 1 month. Now we've only seen, as I showed you in 2014, there's been a 6% decrease in margin debt. In 2007, in just 1 month, a 13% decrease, but you could see that margin debt increased in October when the stock market went up. So we could look at that. These are just approximate numbers, by the way. So 9% decrease in the amount of margin debt from the peak in July to the market top in October. So what are we right now? 6%. That's really interesting. Now let's go to 2000 and see the data. Right, here's the year 2000. And if you want to look at the market top, it was sometime in January, like 11,700. I think it may have hit that again sometime in May of that year. I have to look at the data to be honest. But anyways, the top in March and margin at 278. What happened in the next month in April? It went down. Okay. So 9.7% in 1 month. That's really interesting. So when we start to see moves in the credit markets, what does that mean for the overall market? You want to look at this graph again? Let's look at it. So it's going to be somewhere around here. If I can get it. There. Yeah. Okay. Right. Here's the graph over here. See, margin debt peaks and the S&P peaks, right? Or this is the S&P in blue with the red margin debt, right? So margin debt peaks, S&P goes down, S&P goes down. We're starting to see a peak in the margin debt, right? In red. So if you start to see that, right, what does that mean? Means most likely that the market is going to go down. In my opinion, it's the calm before the storm. Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I have to look at this again. The blue is the margin debt, and the red represents the S&P. Apologize for that. But if you want to look at a few other factors here, the things that I want to talk about though is, once again, is this the calm before the storm? And the best way that I could explain it is, if people aggressively bought some of these high beta stocks, these high flyer stocks, late last year or sometime in the fall of 2013, but have not taken their profits, right? Those people may be vulnerable of this storm, right? Those individuals who have been buying since maybe 2009, right? And they don't care about pullbacks. I mean, sure, could it affect some of their wealth? Yeah, but at the end of the day, they're much better than those individuals who started buying late, who are jumping on the bandwagon. And for those individuals, this storm, right? This is the calm before the storm, in my opinion. If you look at the VIX, if you look at the decrease in the margin debt. So that's all I got to say for that. And some people are going to say that, hey, I'm a gloom and doomer. No, I'm just simply looking at this data. I'm looking at what's happened in the past and try to extrapolate what's going to happen in the future, right? Could my mind change? Sure. But I just got to lay that out there. Anyways, guys, based on this graph, expect to see the market not get hammered, but see a slow but steady move to the downside. Now, I wanted your guys' opinion. What do you think is going to happen? Especially with the VIX currently at 11.36 or something like that, some ridiculously low number. Leave your thoughts below. I'll talk to you later. Bye.